Thank you, Chair. I should thank IDSA for giving me this opportunity to be here and share my views on the subject. In fact, once after taking the assignment, as I started engaging myself on the subject, I discovered that something very interesting and exciting is happening in the field of energy and the geopolitics of West Asia. So therefore, what I am going to present to you is largely as a kind of in a conference like this, one should always take an opportunity to exchange notes with the view to improve your understanding of the subject. And therefore, what are the tendencies which I read there? I am presenting them as a trend. So you can say I am slightly overstating many things, but that is essentially to get the feedback from you. Well, it's well known that energy has played a very important role in defining the geopolitics of West Asia. Just one minute. Which one? This one? It has been defining the geopolitics of West Asia. We know that it became a reason by which security arrangement started there in the region with Americans and Western powers. But there is also apprehension that the energy could become a kind of a source of insecurity. And when 2003 invasion of Iraq was taking place, there were lots of write-up coming up that energy is going to be the important consideration. And I just picked up the one quotation, which is very interesting today when we read it. And it says that the new government's attempt to establish control over all of Iraq may well lead to civil war between Sunni, Shia and Kurdish ethnic groups. The fiercest fighting could be expected for control over the oil facilities. Fracturing the country along sectarian lines, however, may give Washington several strategic advantage. Ironically, ISI has belied the prognosis because we find that things are totally moved. Now, I am making this point primarily here because quite often studies which are done in advance of time are being debunked as a kind of a conspiracy theory. And when we, after a period of time, you do discover that the script may not be exactly the same script, but certainly it moves around the same way. Therefore, I would like to underscore the point here. A time has come after the West Asian crisis, especially now, makes it very compulsory for all of us engaged into the international relations to come out of the kind of a box thinking we have been talking about, relationship. And I'm very happy to see that both the scholar from China and Japan did talk about the kind of a new mindset is required. And I think ISI is an opportunity for Asian scholar to think about the various issues on energy, around energy, on security, on development with a new kind of a mindset. Now, let's come to the main topic which I want to draw attention. That you see, we know that whenever any kind, the new first thing is that what I find that the new geopolitics comes essentially out of the kind of changes which is taking place in the energy market and also the arrival of the American energy. Normally, what happens that wherever there is anything happens West Asia, oil prices go up. And why is that this time it is not happening? I think that was the first point of my query when I started this subject. And when I discovered that the prices are going down from 2010 to 11 between 11 and 12, it went up marginally, but after 12, 13, 14, it has been coming down as late as on 8th September, that's 2 days back, it was $97 per barrel. Now, this is a kind of puzzle which all of us who are in the station on energy studies would like to examine that why it is happening there for the first time, or that we are finding that dramatic developments are taking place, instability being talked around in the region, still the oil prices are not going up. In fact, they are coming down. If you look at this slide, you will discover that how all the three markets, this is only to further reinforce the point which I have made here, that all the three markets you find the prices are coming down. Now, this has to be seen. Some of the slides which I am showing you is essentially a kind of background. Against that, I would like to discuss the geopolitics of it. Now, you will find that interesting developments are taking place in the sense that the leading oil producers' positions are changing in a very big way. Now, in this, the first quarter of 2014, this diagram shows that Russia has become the top, Saudi Arabia after that, and our third position is with the United States of America. The second table, again further drawn from the IEA data, again shows that what kind of a ranking is coming in terms of oil production. The Russians, Saudi Arabia, and Chinese are Americans are the three major oil producers, and that's how the entire geopolitics in the coming time is going to be defined. This figure is important for us to see this. This figure is important because what I am trying to, why I am using this figure is that if you notice between 2013 to onward period, the world supply is more than what the oil demand is there. You see, the supply has been there. From 2013 you will find it's going up, and it is 18, 19, then it is peaking down. Now this next 5 years period is very, very critical period in defining the entire geopolitics of West Asia, because all that politics is changing has to be seen against the backdrop of what is happening in this. Now the demand is not you find that the supplies are going up very high, and there is a huge gap. Now if you look at the capacity, the most important point which I will develop later is the capacity. The spare capacity with the OPEC is much higher today and is going to increase. Now this is going to have a very important role in the politics of the oil prices, as I will develop this point subsequently. So this is the first slide which we have to keep in mind when we are trying to understand the geopolitics. Now second point which I want to draw here is that the share of the OPEC, the leader of the oil market, is declining. And it has declined. The figure was given here that between 2014 and 2015 it's further declining, and the non-OPEC oil supplies are going up. What one is trying to argue is that the kind of a leverage enjoyed by the OPEC in deciding the price on the oil market is increasingly declining. This is the goal. This is the demand which I have tried to show that how this demand is increasing up. But then this is more important slide to understand that the geopolitics of the region. That the bulk of the increased demand which is coming from Asia, not from the West, and therefore the trade profile of energy is moving drastically. It's moving from Atlantic to the Asia Pacific side. Asian imports have surged between 2013 and 19, 16%, making it is 65% of the international crude market is coming to Asia, which is a very huge shift, which is going to play a very important role in defining the Asia's relation with West Asia. The new energy scape which is emerging, it's not of the scarcity. So far we have been understanding the energy politics in terms of the scarcity of energy. What we find in the coming in next 4 to 5 years, there is a sense of some kind of relative abundance is taking place, because a new oil and gas is coming from the non-OPEC areas. The North American, I have given you the figure here that how the North American oil production is going up from after 2008 it is moving up constantly. The proven oil reserves of Americans are going up, and not to mention the fact that the new other sources are coming up, like the Latin America, the Central Asia, and Africa, Uganda, and other countries. So what the point emerging out of this slide is largely this, that the era when the oil politics was defined of the scarcity syndrome, that phase seems to be not there in the next 5 to 7 years at least. In short run, one can very safely argue this point. Now, what are the issues which are going to be changing the entire oil game in the region? One is that the turmoil which is taking place in Iraq and Syria, its spillover could be seen in Libya. Then the shadow of the turmoil on the Gulf. I'll explain these points. Then the Iran, which is very keen to recover from the lost opportunity, and the Americans, which are writing the new energy script, and finally Russian, which are coming to Asian turf. Now, epicenter of this Iraq. Now, you will find that Iraq is one of the most sought after source of energy in the coming years. You will find it is the world's 5th largest proven oil reserve, number 2 producer of OPEC, and it has a tremendous capacity. It was producing 3.3 million barrels, equal to 4% of global oil supply, and proposes to enhance it to 5 million barrels per day. The estimates coming from the IEA are that the incremental oil which is going to come in in OPEC is largely to come from the Iraqi oil. So Iraq is a very priced in terms of oil endowment, and going to play a very important role if things becomes normal in Iraq. You see. As far as the Mosul is concerned, the oil in this region, is not very big, and therefore the impact of the disturbance which is taking place in this region is on oil prices is not high because of this oil, which is very limited. But certainly this oil plays a very important role in terms of financing the movement there and providing the entire facilities used, expenditure of the Islamic State is being financed by the money which is being traded in the oil, and in fact what the information is available very clearly shows that the bulk of the financing which is coming to the ISIS is coming from the oil which is being sold from Syria more than from Iraq. But the oil, again, these are the guesstimates. There are no definite figures about it, but the guesstimate figures are that price ranges about 40 barrels per day, which fetches them around $2 million dollars, or between $1 to $2 million dollars. Where the supply is going is not very clear definition. Not very definite evidences are there. But it is the black market is normally argued, or the newspapers are clippings are suggesting is going to largely to Turkey, Jordan, and in Syria as well. Libya is an important player. Again, there is a hypothesis behind the removal of the Saddam Hussein. The lucrative oil of Libya played a very important role. And I have given a figure here which will tell you the kind of profile, oil profile of Libya. I am not going to read them out. Now, this is the point which is important for us for discussion this morning. You see, that the fiscal break-even is very important role. The linkage between oil prices and the fiscal break-even is very important. That is the kind of a price of oil which is required by the countries to balance their fiscal or the budget. You see. Now, budget in these countries, the last 3 years, as we know that last 3 years the oil prices were going up. And because of the addressing the demand of the Arab uprising, you see, the public expenditure has been going up in all the 3 countries. In all the countries, especially we are talking of the Gulf countries. Now, therefore, I will refer to 2 or 3 countries, namely Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia spending has been going up. The oil supply has been going down, and therefore you find that the $97 has been estimated as if the oil prices go below $97 per barrel, then the fiscal problem may come. This is not to argue that there is going to be bankruptcy, because there is enough sovereign fund with the Saudis. But what I am trying to say, the kind of a cushion which is provided by the oil money, they need to, certain level of oil prices is necessary for Saudi Arabia, and the price which is being worked out for Saudi Arabia is $97 per barrel. Then there are reports that Saudi Arabia has been losing its market share because of the discounted oil going from Iraq, and share the Saudi export of oil to Americans also has been going down, and gradually the Saudis export of oil which has come to is moving to Asia, which is expected to become a 44% by the time 2035. For Kuwait also the same. The break-even point has been rated as $54 per barrel. But most important is the 2 countries which I would like to draw is Bahrain and Oman. Not very rich with oil, but the break-even point is very high. For Bahrain it is $134. and therefore it's going to face, because this is important for us to keep in mind that the kind of political unrest, the capacity of the state to underwrite the public expenditure, the kind of subsidies, all these factors which makes a state to the two countries which are going to face this problem most seriously is Bahrain and Oman. Oman has to be again emphasized in terms of the kind of political succession which issue is going to come. So therefore, the overall you will find that the Moody's estimates are, the last point is that it is overall break-even point in case of most of the GCC countries has been going up, and that is where now this will whether it will go further up again depends upon how the states are going to look towards their public expenditure. I would like to emphasize here that increasing the amount of discontent, the rentier state would like to increase the public expenditure. The way the expenditure is going on the education sector, the way they are providing certain kind of the wages are going up in the region, all that makes it very compulsory that the time has come where it's not a zero-sum argument, but the point is that a kind of a trade-off is going to take place, that if you have to take care of the public discontent, you have to enhance your expenditure, and that will require the oil price, you require much more oil revenue, and that is the kind of tension which these countries are facing today. The situation is not very different as far as Iran is concerned. The resistance economy, as being talked about, is now today under pressure to have a very active global engagement. And these are the point of the resistance economy, but more important is that if you look at the kind of under the comprehensive sanctions, the Iranians have been losing significantly, very significantly in terms of oil revenues, and I have given you the figure. But most important, the third point is that they need oil price of $132 per barrel to meet their requirements. Now, which is and this is on we are talking of the still they are under sanctions. You see. So that is the kind of a situation when Iranian will also be needing a certain kind of a oil price, which can meet their budgetary requirement. The important thing is that what is going to happen with the among the members of the OPEC, because when the Iraqi oil is going to come back, when the Iranian oil is going to come back, how they are going to distribute the quotas and how are they going to share it, that is where the main politics is going to be there. The Iranians will certainly like that they have lost the opportunity, they would like to being compensated, so they will be asking much larger quota, much larger amount of oil, and if that larger amount of oil comes to the market, it's very obvious the prices are going to come down. So expected scenario is that the OPEC output will increase. It is based on assumption that the OPEC will play a soft line, will not cut down any kind of impose any decision, but possibly is not in a position to impose the decision. Therefore, you will find that the next 2 years is going to be that a situation where the OPEC will not take a decision and the production will go on increasing. At the same time, non-OPEC oil supplies, as I mentioned to you, is going to go up. This will certainly moderate the price. So the reading is that unless until something happens which is beyond the imagination, in the sense that some natural disaster takes place, or the crisis moves beyond from the limited territory in West Asia beyond that. So unless until that happens, what we are going to expect is the oil prices are going to be moderate in the coming years of time, and it will have its ramification in terms of the global energy mix, because you know that today we are talking of the sustainable energy project in which the role of the renewable energy is very high, and that may adverse, if the oil price is going to come down, it might have a bearing on the kind of in the changes in as far as the energy mix is concerned. Now the only OPEC member who has a capacity to to cut down its oil export, because it has a capacity to further enhance the export, is Saudi Arabia, because it has the spare capacity. Now, if Saudi Arabia further enhances it, that Saudi's capacity to further unload will impinge upon will decline the oil prices, and it will impact upon the countries desperately needing the oil revenue, namely the Iran. And therefore, if Saudis want to play their oil card, assuming that there is a tension goes up between them in terms of Shia-Sunni power competition in West Asia, then Saudis have this card that they can possibly unstock the additional the oil which they have at this disposal, and which will bring down the oil prices. Certainly, Saudis, it is not in their interest, in long-term interest, but in the short term, this has been happening there, because all of us know when why Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. One of the reasons was that Saddam Hussein wanted oil revenue. The oil prices were, the small countries like Kuwait, with exporting oil, and the price was coming down, and Saddam became very furious that the price of oil, a time when he needs oil revenue to finance his budget, that time it was coming down. I'll just finish it. So So I'm just skipping. So there's one possibility that some kind of a price war seems to be there. The oil prices might come down, but this is a far-fetched kind of because it has its own contradictions. Because the companies would not like to lose their profit, so they would like to certainly not go beyond. But the point I am trying to draw that the temporary kind of this conflict could lead to certain prices to come down. When this crisis is there, that Americans' oil is coming in a big way, and I am not going to give detail, but just want to make a small point that so far after the 70s, the oil export is not allowed to Americans by the law, but the strong oil lobbies are working there that their oil exports they should be allowed to export the oil. And therefore, the Americans too have this card with them that if they allow this oil to come to the market, the oil prices will have their impact, and it will have consequences. Last but not least is the Russia is emerging as an Asian supplier. If you compare these two slides, you will find that Russian exports of oil is moving away from Europe to Asia. I am not meant when we know about the kind of deal which they've done, the Chinese, etc. So the entire theater is moving toward the Asia, and therefore the Asian energy pivot is going to be the eastern tilt of the West Asian geopolitics. There is going to be competition for the Asian market. Discounted oil is already being available to us, but as again, this slide reinforces the point which is being made earlier. That point is that if the Asia is going to be the energy consumer, the responsibility of sharing of security comes, and none of the Asian players can play this role alone. So therefore, we reinforce the point. The time has come when the Asian players will have to come together and to arrive at some kind of shared strategic vision. Mr. Chairman, I just want to make one point here before I conclude. Now, shared strategic vision has to be Asian. This is the point I would like to labor here this morning. You cannot have a shared strategic vision in terms of rivalries. If you are looking for the rivalries between India and China, in China and Japan, then you cannot be it can't be an Asian vision of having any kind of Asian energy security. You have to come out of that mindset, where we try to look at the engagement with any country on natural resources in terms of competition and rivalry. It's time that Asian thinking or Asian orientations, Asian philosophy of life, where more than individual, the collective is being given a premium, that the Asian companies, it's a compulsion for them, you see, because you can't, the kind of a threat comes to the oil in West Asia. Americans are there, no doubt about it, but Americans have their own understanding of situation. That if the cost escalates beyond a point, as point has been made, they have their own priorities, you see. If the cost becomes beyond a point, then they would not like to give that much of, would not like to pay that much of a price to be there in West Asia as possibly before they were doing it. So if the space is emerging there, then the Asian will have to participate there, but borrowing from the scholars here with the change mindset. And I am sure this conference would like to engage itself that what is that, again borrowing, what is that Asian common? Energy can certainly be an Asian common. Thank you very much.